I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 14 years old, and I remember the moment that I decided I wanted to do that. I was at some religious event and I saw this woman speak. I was so encapsulated by the way that she spoke. She was just so sophisticated, and I really just saw her and was mesmerized by her. So I found out that she was a lawyer, and I decided I want to be just like her. And then I found out, oh, lawyers get paid a lot of money. So I was like, I definitely want to be a lawyer. So when I was 16 years old, I enrolled onto a program called Pathways to Law. It was basically a program which was in conjunction with certain Russell Group universities to help people who came from underprivileged backgrounds and help them break into the legal industry. So I did that for 2 years. I'd go whilst I was in sixth form. I would do some work experience, I would do mock trials, I would attend lectures to find more out about the legal industry. I was still dead set on wanting to pursue this, so I studied law at university and I actually graduated in 2 years rather than three because the university that I went to actually offered the course in 2 years. And I thought to myself, well, I know how competitive it is to get into law, and I will just use that extra year and gain some work experience. So I finished university I was 20 years old. I then went on to paralegal at a firm and I was working in PI. Now, PI stands for personal injury, and it's not ever something that I wanted to do. I always wanted to do corporate or commercial law because that's where the money was, but I also wanted to learn a lot. I was really passionate about developing as an individual. It wasn't just all about money. I wanted to be around people that I thought were really clever so that I could learn from them. Now, I would always say to myself, because I knew it was such a competitive industry and I knew that you had to work very long hours, that I want to be a lawyer for about 10 years. I want to learn as much as I can from these people, and then I want to go off and do my own thing. Now, this is the crazy thing. When you say something to yourself, whether you say it out loud or you write it down, you literally have the power to make it happen. I don't know what it is, but the moment you say things out loud, be careful what you say because they can literally come true. So, back to where I was. I graduated university and I started working in this firm. I worked in this law firm for about 1.5 years, and my God, it was the biggest culture shock of my life. Everybody was way older than me. I was 20 years old. Everybody who worked there was about in their 40s at least. And I found the culture very strange, the corporate culture. It was such a shock because people would walk past you and they wouldn't smile. I was one of those weird people who'd smile at everyone. I'm not one of those people anymore. And I think it's because the whole corporate industry has trained me to be like this and to have that resting face. But nobody would smile. And if they did, one day they would walk past you and smile, and the next day they would just pretend that they didn't know you, even if you'd had a conversation with them the day before. It was such a weird and bizarre thing to get used to. They would talk to you in the office. If you bumped into them outside of work, like literally outside of the office when you were going for your lunch and coming back, they wouldn't speak to you. I remember the first day I went for lunch with a girl, and she said to me, "Hey, I'm just going to this coffee shop. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." We went and got a sandwich. She came back and then she went to her and sat at her desk and ate it. And I was in shock. I was like, well, we have an hour for lunch. She carried on working through her lunch. It was so weird for me. The whole initiation process of working in a law firm, oh my gosh, I just feel sorry for my younger self when I look back at it. So I did this job for about 1.5 years, and then I told my manager, hey, look, this is not what I really want to do. And during that time, I was actually speaking to other recruiters so that I could go and work in corporate law firms. Okay. I have to be a paralegal in corporate, in finance, whatever it was. I just didn't want to be in PI. So I had a one-to-one with her and I let her know that, look, I don't want to do this. I will be applying for a training contract and it won't be in this department. And she was surprised, but she didn't really care. She was somebody who didn't really care about her job very much. So she was like, okay. And then I basically went on to paralegal. And then she basically just emailed two random partners in the firm. One was a real estate partner and the other was a banking and finance partner. And she was like, hey, I have a paralegal. She's interested in this area of law. Do you mind having a chat with her? And she copied me into the email. Somebody had replied, one of the partners replied saying, yeah, I'll to her. And I was mortified. I was like, I'm 21 years old. She just introduced me to these people. I never wanted to be introduced. What do I talk about with them? But you know what? Things work in funny ways because it was actually the best thing she could have ever done for me. I went to speak to that partner and I just had a casual conversation. I didn't have any in the back of my mind. And I just went in there all calm and just had a casual conversation. The next day I had a meeting with my supervisor and she was like he really liked you and he wants you to work for him. And that was such a surprise to me. But then he created a job role for me. I went through the interview process because they legally had to still advertise the role. Then I became a paralegal in a banking and finance department. So down that corporate route that I always wanted to be in. And again, it was still a massive culture shock because I was the only brown little girl that worked in that office on that floor. And my team was all men. There were two men. My supervisor, I just don't ever think that he liked me. In fact, I know he didn't like me. And there was another guy who was very senior. He was the nicest guy in the world. I still miss him to this day. He was the best. Every time I made a mistake, he would just tell me about how he'd made a mistake that was similar in the past or done something worse. He was just the best. And I'm so glad that I spent most of my time working with him instead of my main supervisor who actually gave me the job. So whilst I was working, I was periodically every year applying for an internal training contract and I'd been rejected multiple times. And that is a whole journey in itself. And I will one day do story time about some of the ridiculous reasons that I was given being rejected and some of the controversial things that have gone on in the recruitment process, which is not public knowledge but should be. But today I really want to talk about my journey in law and how I came to doing what I am doing today. So I paralegal for 2.5 years and then COVID hit. I was put on furlough. I was like straight out. They were like, the bottom of the barrel, we don't need you out, essentially. So it was COVID. I got put on furlough, and honestly, I had the best time of my life. They put me on furlough for a month and then they said that they would periodically check up to see whether I would be put on furlough again. So after 1 month, so fast forward to 2020, COVID hit and everybody had to just go and work from home. And I found this period so difficult because I didn't actually have enough room in my bedroom to have a full desk set up. And my neck would hurt, my back would hurt. Sometimes I'd be working till 8 p.m. It was a struggle. I remember one day going on a run at lunchtime and my supervisor being so trolly, so annoying, constantly badgering me. I didn't even have time to shower. It got to 7 o'clock and he was still pestering me. I had enough. I just put the laptop away. I went and showered, cried in the shower, came back, opened my laptop. It was 7:30, and I came back to text messages on my phone. Hey, are you okay? I emailed you. I was being paid £19,200. That's nothing for the amount of work I was doing. And then I ended up getting put on furlough. I was the bottom of the barrel. I was just a paralegal, so of course they were going to be like, you can go. I got put on furlough for in a total of 2 months. And I'm not going to lie, I had the best time of my life during this time. It was so fun because I was getting paid £800 a month, right? So that was nothing. But for me, I was like, well, I'm getting paid to do nothing, so I'll take it. And I realized in that moment how much I hated my job and how much of an effect it was having on my mental health. So I decided that when I applied for a training contract this year, I don't really care what happens. I'm not going to worry anymore, because when I was at uni, I'd be so stressed out that my whole face ended up getting eczema. I got stress induced eczema, and my whole face had cracked up. I couldn't even open my mouth to chew food. I remember once I was at university, I opened my mouth, like my cheeks cracked. It was bleeding. It was so painful. I went to the bathroom and cried. I couldn't eat. It got so bad that it got infected. I got referred to a dermatologist straight away, and he spoke to me, and we figured out that it was because of stress, and it was the university, it was my exams which was causing me stress. So I decided that there is no way I'm going to get stressed out about the future when we have a huge coronavirus going on and the whole world has shut down. Like, I'm just this small, insignificant thing, and there are so many things that go on in life that are beyond our control. This is a job. I'm not going to get stressed about a job. Worst case scenario, I will work in Tesco and I will get more money than I'm getting paid now for doing less work. But the universe works in such a funny way that when I decided this is the last year, I want to go off and do something else. My life is going to be more exciting. I know what my life is going to look like if I stay in this industry. I'm going to be just like these partners. I'm going to be so boring. Whole life is going to be about work and paperwork. I ended up getting a training contract. I don't know what it was. The universe was like, nope, you're not going to quit just yet. So I secured my training contract, and I remember getting the phone call on the day. It was the 14th of August, 2020. And I remember picking up the phone, and I just knew that I was going to get it, because whenever you're successful, you usually get a call. And when you're unsuccessful, you will get an email. So I was very happy. I was surprised that it happened when I was ready to quit. But there was a small part of me which was a little bit disappointed. I'm not going to lie, I was a tiny bit disappointed that I got it, just because I couldn't go off and do something else with my life and do something which I had not planned. I'd been wanting to be a lawyer since I was 14 years old, right? So I had been wanting this one thing, and it wasn't really working out. It was taking too much of my energy, too much of my time. And the moment I decided I want it and I'm ready to go and do other things and mentally prepared myself, I was thrown back into it. So I don't want to sound ungrateful, because I know how difficult it is to secure a training contract and to become a lawyer. But a part of me was, to be entirely honest with you. Once I got my training contract, my supervisor became so much more annoying and strict, and he was like, oh, this is the standard when you're a trainee solicitor, and being super horrible and rude and mean. And I was like, no, I'm leaving. I don't need to put up with this shit. I was like, sorry, I'm going abroad with my mom. My grandma is sick. I'm leaving. He was like, oh, you didn't tell me that your mom was going abroad. And I was like, sorry, I didn't really realize that my mom needed to request annual leave from you as well. I left December 2000 and I just chilled. I did nothing for 9 months except chill and enjoy myself. I decided that it was better to earn zero money, to lose money, than to be stuck in this job making £1,000 a month. So when it came to September 2021, I had to go back to university and complete my postgraduate, which was my LPC. I found it a little bit difficult because, obviously, having worked, it's difficult to go back into full-time study because you don't get paid for studying. And it's also a little bit annoying because whenever you work, most of the time in certain industries, once you've gone home, you don't really need to think about it. When it comes to studying, you always think that you can do a little bit more and you always feel guilty. So it was just a bit difficult to adjust back to that. I was so happy when it was over, and then I started my training contract. I did my training contract for 2 years, and they were the worst 2 years of my life. I don't know why I ever went back to it, but I just thought, I've invested so many years into this. I'm going to have to finish what I started, because once I finish, I can qualify and I can have it under my belt. And worst case scenario, I can always go back to this. I've worked for so long towards this goal. Come August 2024, your girl became a qualified lawyer, qualified solicitor in England and Wales. I was so happy because the last department that I was in was super toxic. They were making my life real hell. And my husband is actually somebody who motivated me to go and do something else. He saw me day in, day out complain about my work and was like, look, you can be making so much more money doing something else. Now, he worked in tech sales and he was earning a lot of money. And I'm talking about six-figure money. Those of you who follow me on TikTok will already know. He said to me, at the end of the day, I'm with you. If you decide that you don't want to work, you'll always have me to fall back on. So go and do this. Try this new job. Worst case scenario, you don't like it and you leave. You're not losing anything. You hate your job anyway. You're already being underpaid. You might as well try this out. And now I've been in this industry in tech sales for 6 months. I'm so much happier because I work completely remotely. I can literally make more money doing less work than a lawyer. That is my career journey. I hope you enjoyed listening to my career journey to date. If you do have any questions, then let me know in the comments down below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And guys, if you are in a job that you hate, that you're not happy in, and it's consuming your life, and you've invested so much time and effort into it, don't be afraid to make that change. We only have one life, it's very short. I've been wanting to be a lawyer since I was 14 years old, and I qualified 14 years later at 28 years old. So don't worry about it. There are men and women out there who will live their whole lives as a man or woman, and then in their 60s and 70s, they'll decide, no, I'm the wrong gender. So changing your career or your job is so insignificant compared to other things that people decide that they want to change. Only you know what you are going through. You should not ever pursue a career or do something just to please other people, because you spend more time at work than you do with your family. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you learned something. Comment down below whether you've experienced something similar to this, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye, guys.